Hello everybody and welcome to this week's community question. My name is Alex, and I hope you all had a great gaming week this week. March is here, and there's gonna be some changes to the channel happening, which is why this episode is going to be a little different. I have 3 updates for you, and I'll go through them quick, so please bear with me. For starters, I'll be using Community Question to update you on what videos I'm working on and their status. To ensure that the quality of upcoming videos are up to high standards, I will need more time to work on them. I also wanted to make sure that you guys knew what's coming out for the channel and what's behind the scenes, and felt that, since Community Question came out every week, that is the perfect place to do just that. Don't worry, I promise it won't take away from the point of Community Question. Next, I want to give you guys a heads up on the video release schedule of the channel. In 2018, I said that videos would come out weekly, but never mentioned specific days when videos would come out. Starting March 12, 2018, you can expect videos from the channel to come out every Monday and Thursday without fail. But what will happen to Community Question, you ask? That usually comes out on a Friday, right? That's actually our last update today, and, in my opinion, the biggest deal. Community Question is moving from a Friday release to a Monday release starting March 12, 2018. This basically means that this week's Community Question will have 2 extra days for you to think about what to put down. I found it silly the Community Question came out at the end of the week, continued for a week, past the beginning of the following week. And so, we're righting a wrong, and, starting in a little over a week's time, Community Question will start your week off right every Monday. But don't think this week's Community Question is going to be easy. Before we ask the Community Question this week, we'll need to read and reply to your answers from last week's question today. For the people who missed it, last week's question was, what is the first game you ever played? The answers to this question had some notable similarities amongst you, and it's so interesting how varied your memories are, despite some of the games being similar. That said, I'll be reading answers that gave more details than just listing what their first game was. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and read some of your answers, shall we? The Justin Show writes, the first one I remember is Mario Bros. On NES. I just kept dying but never stopped playing. Ha! Persistence. Keep in mind, people, he is not talking about Super Mario Bros., but Mario Bros., the single-screen arcade game where random turtles and creatures popped out from random pipes. No magic mushroom can save you in this one. Though it's interesting to think how the series changed from Mario Bros. To Super Mario Bros. Like, imagine how many elements of Super Mario Bros. Were brand new compared to this game. Food for thought. TokenGeek writes, the first game I have memories of is Pokemon Yellow, so that's the game I attribute to being my first game. I remember picking up my family's green Game Boy Color in our car at the time and playing it. It left such a raw feeling of amazement and excitement at the same time. I was 4 years old, and it's the earliest memory I have. Growing up on the classics, it's difficult for me to comprehend that we live in an age where people grew up with a widely different context in video games. Pokemon Yellow, for someone's first game, is quite sophisticated in what it asks of you compared to something like Enduro Racer or Galaga. And yet, TokenGeek's childhood, and ultimately life, was changed forever because of his experiences with Pokemon Yellow. This story made me smile, and while my answers betray my age, I love hearing these kinds of stories. Great pick. Dianes writes, Donkey Kong Country on the SNES was one of the first games I played. It's filled with nostalgic vibes from that sweet Rareware introduction as you see the creation of the letter R before being plopped into a game filled with some of the best SNES music I can remember. The graphics were also pretty revolutionary at the time. Hell, I used to speedrun the game every time I'd replay it as an 8-year-old. I still remember the sweet little secrets that would get you further through the game, and the various companion animals that would give you special abilities. I'm looking at you, On Guard. Donkey Kong Country was a fixture of the 90s console wars. There's some really interesting facts about the creation of Donkey Kong Country found within the book Console Wars, which chronicles the stories behind Sega, Nintendo, and Sony during the 90s. If you want to check out our review of the book, which has something for every fan of these three, click on the eye on the top right to find the link to the review of the book. Going back to Diane's response, however, I'm still at awe that this could be someone's first game. I mean, Diane's already said what I would have said. The game had incredible graphics at the time, and its gameplay was bar none. It even impressed Al Nilsson when it was debuted, and he's the guy who helped Sonic become a worldwide phenomenon. Donkey Kong Country proved to everyone, including Nintendo, that quality trumps quantity, and it's what helped them push through and win the console wars in the 90s. Great choice. Naoto Ace 211EX writes, "My first experience in video games would be Pac-Man for the Atari 2600. Unfortunately, I was too young to understand the concept of video games. So the game that got me into video games really is Super Mario Bros. For the Famicom. I was in my homeland when I got introduced to Nintendo." Naoto brings up a very interesting point that sometimes your first might not be the one that gets you into the hobby. Pac-Man on the Atari 2600 graphically looked underwhelming on the platform compared to the crispness of Pac-Man's character in the arcades. It naturally wouldn't compare favorably to Super Mario Bros. On the Famicom, as the sprite animations in the latter looked amazing. Thanks for sharing. Boofudine writes, "The first game I ever played was Super Mario Bros. On the NES back in 97 or 98, I'd say. Around this time, I mainly watched my cousins and brothers play the game, but sometimes I attempted and failed to even get past the second level, which is why I preferred to watch instead until I turned 5. And because of my skewed young mind at the time, and because of the blocky nature of 8-bit graphics, I thought that the game's world was made out of Lego. Goombas were tomato men that got squashed, and Koopa Troopas were burgers on skateboards that sped off when you jumped and kicked them. All of that sounded like the perfect ingredient for a bootleg knockoff, now that I think about it. You'd be surprised how much of this was altered in the many bootleg knockoffs of Super Mario Bros. In Asia. Some replaced the whole sprite kit with Sonic and his enemies, some replaced them with Crash Bandicoot. Some even replaced them with Street Fighter characters. That said, your description of the game sounds amazing, and it's a testament to how much imagination we had to imbue onto these blocky characters to get enjoyment out of these games. I'm not saying that the graphics are terrible, mind you, but there's something to be said about asking our brains to fill in the gaps where details are missing. Great story. BioPhoenix writes, "My first game was on SNES, and it was either Super Mario Bros. All-Stars or Donkey Kong Country. My cousin gave my family his SNES after he got an N64 in 97, and these were the two games that came out with it at first, and I remember playing both of these games a lot." +1 for Donkey Kong Country. What a way to start gaming. Even to this day, Donkey Kong Country's graphics and music are some of the most memorable during that era. Also, I do like that you basically have the entire NES saga of Super Mario Bros. In All-Stars. I remember playing the original Super Mario Bros. 2 on the Famicom and being confused that there was another, more different version of Super Mario Bros. 2 on the NES. And while I liked the latter, I mean, it's got super colorful graphics compared to the old stylings of the original, it's great that the lost levels managed to arrive in the West. I would have loved to hear more about your stories about all the games, including the ones you got later. But let it be known that we have another member of the community who started playing games with Donkey Kong Country. Also, thank you for the congratulations. Black Metal Gamer writes, "Well, I barely remember, but I was 5-ish and lived in the outskirts of the Bay, and my dad had the Atari 2600. Then, he got the Atari ST, which amazed me because he then played Pac-Man during that time. Then, once I played Super Mario Bros. On the NES, I was hooked. This was around 88. I can empathize with this, as, until recently, I didn't really realize that the Atari was the true beginning of my video gaming career, if you will. That said, chalk one up for another person getting into games with Super Mario Bros. And that's all the answers we managed to get in this video. Remember, if you want to make sure that your answer appears on next week's community question, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon so you won't miss the release of the latest episode, and post a comment with your answer right away. The more detailed your answer, the better. Also, if you've got the time, check out the channels of everyone who's replied. You'll never know if they're a YouTuber or not. As developers get comfortable with this generation's machines, we're starting to see them take risks, creating original IPs and memorable characters, stories, and gameplay. But it wasn't too long ago, and some might even argue that it's still going on, that sequels populated the charts. There came a time, of course, that we saw sequels as necessary, because sometimes having too much of a good thing isn't so bad. So, dear viewer, I pose the question: what's your favorite video game sequel? As with previous questions, don't think of your answer too much. If you have multiple answers, go and post them here and tell us why you picked them. Did your favorite sequel do something so extraordinary that it just made you fall in love with the game right away? Did your favorite sequel shock you in more ways than one? Or did your favorite sequel leave an indelible mark on your life? The possibilities, as I've said before, can be endless. But I'll keep my answer simple and pick one game to share with you, as I think you'll agree that this is probably one of the best games in this series' history. The game I'm talking about is Castlevania III: Dracula's Curse. This Castlevania holds the distinction of allowing the player to not only just play a Belmont, but a pirate, a mage, and a vampire as well. If what I said sounds awfully familiar, it's because Netflix's Castlevania animated series uses this game as its inspiration. But the incredible music, which sounds different depending on what version of the game you play, and its well-built levels and colorful cast of monsters really captured my attention. And thank goodness for that. After the much reviled Castlevania II: Simon's Quest, Castlevania III: Dracula's Curse was a true return to form in the series, and its impact on culture can be seen even to this day. And that's my pick for my favorite video game sequel. What's yours? Post your reply in the comments below. Also, don't forget to click subscribe and the bell icon so you'll be notified of future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'm looking forward to talking with you in the comments.